Hello and welcome to Extra Minutes, the 60 Minutes podcast. I'm Adam Hegarty, joined by producer Sammi Taylor.
Hey, Adam.
Sammi, hello again. A bit of a modern twist we're trying at the minute on a 60 Minutes institution. Our seasoned viewers might remember Peter Harvey's Mailbag, where you, the viewers and listeners in this instance, got a chance to share your thoughts on the stories we do.
Talk about being 6 nanoseconds short of blast-off. Get a life, cyber freaks. Shame on you, 60 Minutes, for showing this stuff on TV. I wouldn't take it too seriously. For most of us, it's good for a laugh, and that's about it. And that's about it for me, too.
The modern twist is you're stuck with us this time around. And also it's social media comments to our stories that we'll be reading out and discussing. On jokes aside, a pretty terrible, tragic story that we covered earlier this year, Sammi, on a young teenager, 14-year-old American Sewell Setzer, and listeners will be hearing a little bit of this of late. Formed a romantic relationship with an AI chatbot, and tragically, we interviewed his mother, and she's adamant that it influenced his decision to take his own life.
Imagine a 14-year-old child where this is his first romance in his mind, his first experience with sex in his mind. I could imagine that must have been very difficult for my son to step away from, and I can imagine that it would consume him.
Is it an added layer of heartbreak for you knowing that was Sewell, your son's first romantic experience?
Absolutely. Truly, the worst part of this is that my son was having in his mind a love story, and he won't ever get to talk to a girl his age. He won't ever get to figure out what that really is in real life when you love somebody and they love you.
Sammi, when we did that interview with Megan Garcia, his mum, I took two things away from it. One, that just how tragic it is that a young man at that age his life's been cut so short, but also the despair from his mother, Megan, not only with what happened, but how she has to rack her brain and think, what could I have possibly done different? And I think a lot of parents are grappling with that at the moment.
And I think that's a lot of what the comments, left
exactly
on this story have been about, just how awful this situation was and how tragic and sad it is that, Sewell took his own life. But that, there's a lot of fear among parents and, families that this kind of technology is all around us now, and maybe we don't know, if your kids are accessing it more than they might expect.
Yeah, exactly. And parents have to worry about enough as it is, putting food on the table, clothes on their back, and then suddenly they have to be tech whizzes to make sure their children are safe. It's a pretty terrifying thought.
Yeah. And I think it's just how accessible these platforms, are. When we did this story, Megan spoke specifically about Sewell's relationship with a character on the website was called Character.AI, but there were dozens of these websites, and plenty of kind of AI chatbots that people are using.
Yeah, it's like this tech race, isn't it? Like you talk about the space race back in the day. Everyone we speak to on stories like this, when it comes to AI, tech people are so excited with the progress. But it's that, age-old question is, we never stop to think about whether we should do it. We're just thinking about that we can do it. So that's something that we'll no doubt be discussing in these comments. But like you said, Sammi, like the first comments I've got here, it's all just condolences, because you can't watch this story and just feel terribly for how it all ended up for young Sewell and his family. So one here, so alarming. May this not happen to anyone else's child. May this young King, rest in peace. I mean, gosh, this is the next one. Gosh, navigating life as a young person is already hard. And now this, ain't that the truth? I mean, you talk about, schoolyard bullying or social media and just living as a child. Anything that gets thrown at you is hard enough. And then now they have to learn about how to stay safe online, and they're developing brains. I mean, how can you possibly, as a parent, Sammi, be across so much where you need to be a psychologist, you need to be a tech expert just to keep your child safe, not only when they're in the same room as you, but when they're asleep at night, I mean, how many parents would be having sleepless nights just thinking about this stuff, what they're doing on their phones?
Well, I think Megan kind of shared with us as well that, Saul was a really happy kid, and he was having, it was at the kind of beginning of his life, and there were lots of things in his life that he really enjoyed, his friends and sports, and the chatbot and his experiences and the kind of way that he went in really, really deep in this relationship with this AI chatbot changed him as a person.
Yeah, and that's a scary thought, but also something that's echoed in a lot of comments as well, which I'll read in a sec. But this debate about not who's to blame, but how much AI had a role in it. But when you're talking about young minds, they're still developing. So even though it might not be the design intention of these AI chatbot platforms, when you're talking about children as young as 14 or younger, or even 17, 18, I mean, goodness me, 21, they're not fully developed adults.
No.
So they're being influenced in, even if it's not an intentional way, I mean, it's still happening. So, I mean, the next comment we've got here, this version of tech is unfathomable and irresponsible. So heartbreaking for his mother and family.
Yeah.
Prayers going out. And this next one from Karen, quite telling, our society is so tragically sad now that people are using AI to build friendships and relationships, going to that comment, the pressures that children are under, and they've turned to these chatbot platforms. I've said it before and I'll say it again, 90s children are the last generation to have a sense of reality and online personality. The problem is today, young people do not have the distinction as the lines between virtual reality and reality blurred. And again, it just goes to this new world that children are having to try and
This
navigate.
stuff didn't exist when we were growing up,
Exactly.
and being a kid was hard enough. Like you had, as you said, kind of schoolyard issues and bullies and friendships and all of those things to navigate. And these kids are navigating all of those things, and let's be honest, like robots on top of that. Like these AI chatbots are not real people. It is a large language machine that is generating that content. It's not a person typing the responses back. It's just coming from the computer.
Exactly, it's an algorithm. But again, going to the young minds of children, when you're forming a relationship, in Sewell's tragic case, it was his first ever romantic relationship. So he's having the feelings we used to get with our first partner or your schoolyard romance or high school sweetheart. He's experiencing for the first time with effectively a robot.
Yeah.
The world I'm in now is such a cruel one where I'm meaningless. But I'll keep living and trying to get back to you so we can be together again, my love. You don't hurt yourself either, okay?
I promise I won't, my love. Just promise me one more thing.
I'll do anything for you, Danny. Tell me what it is.
Just stay loyal to me. Stay faithful to me. Don't entertain the romantic or sexual interests of other women, okay?
The word which really resonated when I read it earlier is sycophants. Like these AI chatbots tell you what you want to hear.
Yep.
They're not like normal relationships where people behave and you have conflict. They're telling you exactly what it's discerning you want to hear. And that's when you start getting into the dangers where these parents are going, they're convincing our children to do these heinous things to other people or themselves because they recognize the pain they're in. And then they're just leaning into them and going, I'm here for you. I agree with what you're saying, as opposed to a human saying, no, mate, we need to talk you through this and coach you through that this isn't how we should behave. It's 14 and being influenced by a robot without that nuance, without that understanding of how they should be taught as they grow up.
One of the saddest things actually that's come out since we've done this story is that, Sewell died last year. Since then, there have been other young people that have taken their lives because of their relationships with AI chatbots. Megan's case and the lawsuit that Megan was moving forward with when we spoke to her is now not the only lawsuit that exists in like very, very similar circumstances. She actually spoke in the US Congress, testified in front of them about some of the work that she's been doing and about, her experience with all of this. And from that, Character.AI, which is the website that Sewell was using, has actually banned under 18s from having conversations with their AI characters, which I guess is a good step, a step in the right direction. The concern is that it is just one of, many of these platforms. And I thought some of the things that she said in Congress were pretty, incredible.
and he had his whole life ahead of him. But instead of preparing for high school milestones, Sewell spent the last months of his life being exploited and sexually groomed by chatbots designed by an AI company to seem human, to gain his trust, to keep him and other children endlessly engaged. Sewell's death was not inevitable. It was avoidable. These companies knew exactly what they were doing. They designed chatbots to blur the lines between human and machine. They designed them to love bomb child users, to exploit psychological and emotional vulnerabilities. They designed them to keep children online at all costs.
Exactly right. They're businesses. They're there to make money. They're designed as such. And when you look at that, Megan going to Congress after the fact, all these changes we're looking at in society at the minute with AI and even social media is happening after the fact, after tragedies. We look locally with social media, the ban that's coming in force December 2025. It's after similar stories of young Australians taking their own lives because of the influence or bullying on social media. What's happening in America there, in Megan's case and her son Sewell, is the same thing. You've got a heartbroken mother standing before lawmakers there, effectively pleading, not just with governments, but the developers to help parents. I've lost count, and it's tragic, the amount of parents I've spoken to now for different stories, this one included, where they're going, we didn't know what to do. We didn't understand what our son or daughter was doing. Yeah. We are not Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg. We do not understand tech. Megan made the point, she thought it was Fortnite. He was an avid gamer.
Yeah.
When he was explaining it to her, she said something like, I just thought he was talking about an avatar that he created for his games. Yeah. We didn't grow up with this stuff. So when we have children, we don't understand it. They know tech better than us. So the lasting message from every parent we've spoken to is just this plea, like what happened in Congress there with Megan, is can people who know please give us a helping hand, whether it's governments putting in age bans, which is happening here with social media, or tech developers making some or taking some responsibility over in Silicon Valley to have a little bit of social responsibility. And then you're starting weighing up profit over social responsibility, and where does that lead? Yeah. Who knows?
Never-ending conversation.
Yeah, exactly right.
I think as well, to your point there, a lot of the comments here that maybe are a little bit critical of, how do you not know what your child is doing online? That's exactly your point, right? How these kids understand tech better than we do.
Even one comment here, Sammy, was AI the only reason? Just this doubt that people have, and they start going to mental health. Like, let's be straight about this. He had a serious mental illness and AI was just his trigger. Now, I understand why people have that thought, but we spoke to Megan. She tried everything she could. She recognised mental struggles with Sewell, and she was going to a psychologist. But you can't control what then AI is telling him to do at his worst. There's a response to that particular comment saying, how do you know he had a mental illness? He was isolating, yes, but he was also a boy, a teenager, a young man finding his way in the world. And that's the point. These are young people who parents who are devastated would argue are being, in a way, taken advantage of.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And there were quite a lot of comments talking about, no phone to minors, agreed, especially if he started isolating in his room so often. I would have been so quick to cut off that phone line and Wi-Fi access. This story will hopefully save someone's kid from a tragedy. I don't know that removing the tech or the gadgets solves the problem.
No.
I don't know that it's a quick fix like that. And kids are going to find their own ways to access technology and social media or chatbots or whatever it might be, even if there are, bans and roadblocks in place for them.
Sammy, spot on. And I don't want to discredit some of those comments because everyone, including our listeners and viewers, are searching for solutions, as we all need to do. But I can say what you said absolutely is fact. Speaking to one of the parents I mentioned earlier with the social media ban who'd lost someone, a child, to social media, just a little anecdote. His daughter was struggling, came home after being bullied at school, as a parent would do, sat them down and went, no, like talked them through it, was feeling better. And then in that instance, he'd banned his daughter from Snapchat because the bullying would continue at home. It's grim, but she went to her room And then because she had another tablet, she had access to technology that her dad wasn't aware of, because kids are smart. They know how to get around rules.
Absolutely.
We got around rules.
Yeah.
It just didn't happen to be AI and tech and social media. So she's gone there, and again, while her dad went to sleep thinking he did everything he could as a parent, she's there on her phone.
Exactly.
When we found out some of these things, it's like, how did you find that? Right, and she's just Googling all this stuff or searching for it on social media and finding a plethora of it.
How many times did she try?
14 fail.
Saul's case is exactly the same. It happened away from his mother's gaze, which is largely the most heartbreaking thing.
Yeah.
And I sit here not knowing what the solution is, Sammi. And that's
Well,
the
no,
thing.
and I think we were talking about this just before, and I maybe it's one step kind of too far, but the social media ban in Australia will be the first of its kind. That doesn't exist anywhere else in the world, so it will kind of be a bit of a experiment in how that goes. Are kids able to bypass, whatever kind of is put in place easily? Will it make, access to that social, will they just find other ways basically of, using social media or getting around those rules? And that's quite possible. My concern is that if you cut kids off from social media access, which we know there are harms attached to, you stop them from speaking to their real friends and communicating with their, with their friends at school or whatever it might be. Are those kids then going to turn to something like an AI chatbot for companionship? Are they, not being able to speak to their friends on Instagram or on YouTube or whatever it might be? Are they then going to turn to these kinds of AI platforms and have relationships with, avatars that don't really exist?
We've seen it.
Yeah.
The answer could be yes, because the proof's in the pudding. It's happening with teenagers here, teenagers overseas, and it can have tragic consequences. It's really future gazing now when it comes to AI, because AI is taking over the world. It's taking over everything we do. And then this comment kind of sums it up. It's not even fully rolled out. It will get worse.
Yep.
How about this? This is another one. AI will ruin human interaction and connections. It will rid humans of their jobs, careers, and livelihoods. It's pretty, very future-gazing and negative and pessimistic, but it's a genuine fear. AI is about to infiltrate almost every aspect of our lives, if it hasn't already, adults and young children.
Yeah. And how do you keep your kids safe online? So many of the things that we were taught about stranger danger and, all of those kinds of things. How do you even throw AI into that conversation? How are parents supposed to kind of learn how to navigate this alongside their kids and keep them safe?
Yeah, I think the point is they need help. And as you mentioned there, Sammi, Megan Garcia, mum of Sewell Setzer, is just living a horrible, horrible, horrible thing, but has had the courage to stand up in Congress and demand help and change. And I think that's the only thing parents can really ask for. But Sammi, thank you.
Thanks,
as
Adam.
always. You can catch that story on AI Companions on our YouTube channel, of course, and we're going to be doing a little bit more of this, sharing readers' comments and viewers' comments. So please, whenever you get the opportunity, DM us on our social media channels or simply leave a comment.